Alright, hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to show you how, basically an example of how I use the custom gravity for kind of like a puzzle mechanic kind of concept that I'm going to eventually use for my physics gun level. This is just like a proof of concept kind of thing. So let's go ahead and just jump in real fast just to show you what it does. So basically, we walk in, we're third person, there's no HUD and anything, but we have a physics gun, so we're able to pick up our K actor here. Throw it around, do whatever we want. So we're going to take this and place it right here. And basically what happens is when we press this button that's right here, it's going to shoot up and it's going to touch that top button right there. When it does, the light's going to change and everything like that. That's just a proof that we can get kind of a puzzle working. So let's go ahead and press it. And there you go. And we could do that a bunch of times if we wanted to. But you can see it also times out after a few seconds. But we see that it is working. So that's what we're going to replicate here, kind of from scratch, except the first part of the level, meshing it down and everything. I already filmed that. It's already on my channel. I'm going to link it here. It might be at the beginning, but it's there. And then what we're going to do in this one is just set up all the appropriate actors and everything. Make sure we get this working for you. So let's go ahead and get out of the editor. So a few things I want to go ahead and delete. It's going to be this gravity volume. Actually, before we go ahead and delete anything, I'll show you the Kismet. So we have first the player initialization. This is where we make it third person. This is also where we give him a physics gun. And this is also where we toggle the HUD off. So that's as soon as the player spawns. And next we have the control input. This allows us to turn the actual mechanic on and off. It'll toggle actually the used sequence here. So what we do, we turn on the force actor that we have, and then we modify the gravity properties and everything like that. And then we just tell it. And then we go from turn off control input just to tell it we can't use it for a bit until the whole sequence is over. This goes ahead and changes the light color and the pressure pad color, just to let you know it was activated. And then lastly, we turn the gravity back to normal. We turn off the force actor. We reverse the animations that we have, and then we allow the player to control the input and do it all over again. So that's basically everything. There's actually no variables, which is interesting in this one. But hey, easier that way. So let's go ahead and delete everything in there. We're also going to delete this gravity volume. We're also going to delete this force actor. And we're also going to go ahead and delete that material instance. Okay. So basic, I guess, level setup. It requires a few things. First is our trigger. This trigger is going to be the actual trigger that's used to activate the whole puzzle, so that's when you see the crate kind of go up. For those who don't know how to make a trigger, you can always just right-click, add actor, select trigger, and it creates one right here for you. And then you can move into position, and then it has a bunch of properties. You can change, its area of effect. You can do all that stuff. The next thing we have, we have a trigger volume here. This is our pressure pad trigger volume. This is activated only when our K actor touches it. The only way it's going to touch it is through this gravity field here. If you don't know how to create a trigger volume, you just create your builder brush and make it any size you want. Now under volumes down here, towards the bottom, there's going to be one that says trigger volume, and then you go ahead and create that. But we already have one. Something else we need to make sure we have a dynamic light here. It's just a point light. This is the bright light that's in this area, so if you move it up and down, you'll see what it affects. We're basically changed that color from white to green, just to let the animation look more, I guess, legit is the word to say. But if you don't know how to make a dynamic point light, you hold down the L key in your keyboard, left click in your scene, you'll create a point light. From there, you right click on it, convert light, point light movable, and then you got yourself a dynamic light. But we already have one, so we're going to delete that one as well. The last thing we need is our K actor. These are just static meshes over here. This one is a K actor. As you can see, if you hit F4, you'll see K actor at the top. The one property we messed with is wake on level start. This means that it comes a lot. It starts using physics right away as soon as the level starts. And if you're not too sure how to create one, I'll show you here. You drag out. This is a static mesh, as you can see. All you have to do is right-click on it, convert, and then convert to K actor, and then you got yourself a K actor. But we already have one, so we're going to delete that as well. So if we just go into our scene right away, we don't see much. We're first-person view, and we don't even have a physics gun or anything to pick this K actor up. So let's go ahead and do that first. So let's go into Kismet. Actually, before you go into Kismet, the last thing we need to do here, in your world properties, there's going to be a couple of modified properties. So if you go up to settings and hit show only modified properties, the ones that I did were the game types, default game type, and then game type for PIE or play in editor. They're both UT game. And there's been someone asking me how to do a physics gun, so we're going to go over how to do the physics gun as well again. The first thing you need to do is do the no default inventory for player. Make sure that's checked. What that means is the player won't have any weapons at the very beginning. So when we spawn, like we just did, we have no weapons, we're first person, we can't really do anything, things like that. So let's go back into Kismet. So the main event is going to be the actual player spawning. So let's go to new event, player spawned, kind of zoomed out. A couple of things we're going to modify. The max trigger count, of course, is going to be 0, just so you can spawn an infinite amount of times. And that's actually it. You don't have to do anything with the spawn point. If you wanted to, you can grab your spawn point in your editor, like here, and right-click on spawn point, and, use that as your spawn point. That's fine. There's no real need to do it, but hey, if you like to do it, do you, essentially. So the next thing we're going to do, firstly, we're going to make sure we get into a third-person view. So let's go to new action. I think it's under MISC and then console command. The target is going to be the player, so let's make a player variable. Let's go press down P and left click. You get all players. And its properties, just uncheck all players. It'll give you player index 0, that's you. Plug that into the target. And then the actual console command in the actual command list, we're going to put in a couple things. The first one's going to be behind view. So let's see if that's working. And it is. Perfect. So that gives us third person. Now let's add another one. And then this one, I believe all you need to add, or say at least, is physics gun. One word. In that console command, it should give you your physics gun as your default. And we see the little HUD element for the physics gun. Let's see if we can grab this. And we can. So we got our physics gun, which is always fun. So we got that working as well. But the last thing we want to go ahead and do, just to make it look kind of cool, we're going to toggle the HUD, so you don't see the HUD elements. You won't see the actual cursor HUD element for the physics gun, but I don't think that matters right now. So let's go to new action, toggle HUD. We're just going to press on hide. And then we plug that in because our player is the target as well. So let's see if we can jump in, be behind view, no HUD elements, and so far so good. Let's still make sure our physics gun is working. Oh, and it is. Peace. Let's make it go flying. Cool. So we got that working, which is great. But now we need to add more specific elements to the scene here. The first one we're going to go ahead and do is our force actor. So let's open up content browser, go to actor classes, and in your actor classes, just type in cylindrical. We're going to go for RB underscore cylindrical force actor. Make sure that's selected. And then in the scene, right click, add RB for cylindrical actor. Now for this, the force actor has to be the entire, radius of this button, as well as the entire height between the two, because it's going to be constantly putting force throughout the whole thing. If you just made it tiny, it would just kind of hover in that force actor instead of actually shooting all the way up. So let's go ahead and modify the actual shape of this actor. So with that selected, hit F4 to get into its properties. Now in the property list, let's go ahead and first mess with the shape. So force radius, let's try 64. And also for the top radius, make that 64. Just so it's a cylinder. That looks okay. Let's try 80. And 80. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, that's looking good. Now we need to mess with the actual force height. Let's make this, I think it's 1024. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and do 1030. Nah. 1040. 1050. There we go. But as we can see, it kind of doesn't match. Let's go ahead and move these guys a little bit. That's better. So let's go back into its properties, hit F4. So we have the shape here. I have 80, 80, and 1050. The next thing we're going to check here is force active. Actually, we're not going to check that. Force active means it automatically starts as soon as everything's loaded. We only want this to be active when we tell it to, so we're going to actually leave that unchecked. But there is a property in here we need to modify. It is the lift strength property here. The lift strength is how much force is being applied throughout the whole thing. Through testing, I found the number 70 to be pretty good, just for my uses. So that's all we need to change in this property here, so that's good. But the next thing we need to do, let's get our builder brush. So if you select any object and then hit the brush here, it'll actually match its pivot, it'll go around it. So that's an easy way to get your builder brush wherever it may be. Okay. So I'm just going to match the size of this cage. What we're making is our gravity volume. The gravity volume, we're going to make it less, just so the box floats up. Let's also move that onto the ground. And the gravity volume, like that force actor, needs to encompass the entire length of the movement you want it to be. So lift that up a bit. Alright, so now we have our builder brush here. So let's just make a gravity volume. So if you go under volumes, it's going to be right here, right by gravity volume. So we have that added, which is always a good thing. So let's go ahead and move the brush. Now here's our gravity volume. So that's everything we basically need in this scene here. It's all ready to go. And by default, the gravity here, it's negative 520, which is fine. We're going to leave that alone because like before, like with the force actor, we only wanted to turn it on, change things once a button is pressed, which is this button over here. So let's go ahead and set that up. So let's select a trigger in the scene. Let's go into our Kismet. Let's also comment this. So if you Control Alt left click drag, you'll mark you selected. Press C for commenting. And we'll just call this player initialization. There we go. Can't be that hard. So let's right click, new event using trigger 0 because that's the one we have highlighted and selected. We want to go ahead and use used just so we can press the E key to use it. So there's a couple things we want to change here. Aim to interact, we're going to uncheck that. That makes it a little more difficult to aim at the actual trigger. That basically says, hey, you got to be looking at the trigger and be within its bounds in order to activate it. Just for simplicity, we're going to uncheck that so we don't have to worry about it. And the max trigger count, we're going to change that from 1 to 0 so we can activate that multiple times. So now what we need to do is actually turn on the force actor here. So let's have that selected. And then let's right click, new action, toggle, and then just a normal toggle. We're going to turn on And what is it that we're going to turn on? We're going to right click, and then that's going to be our force actor. We're going to turn that on. So that force active kind of checkbox in the properties, that's basically what this is for. So we're basically checking force active whenever we use the actual trigger. So the next thing we need to do here is modify the gravity volumes gravity Z property. So let's go ahead and but left click and select our gravity volume in the editor. Back in our Kismet, let's right click here, go new action, object, property, modify property. Connect that in. Right click, gravity volume for target. Then in the modify property list, let's go ahead and add and hit that green button. The actual variable name is gravity Z, one word. I'm going to have to check to modify the property. And then the property value at first, it's going to be 50. That's what gets it to slowly rise up. But then we're going to also have a delay here of about a second. We're going to copy and paste this modified property, plug that in, undo the second delay for the second modified property. And in the modified property here, we're going to make this 7,000. Just because the gravity is going to be so intense at that point, it's going to stay up there. It's not going to come drifting back down. So let's go ahead and see if that's working. Let's go ahead and play. Let's get our K actor in place. Looking good. Let's see if this works. And it is perfect. But as you can see, it doesn't shut off or anything. But that's fine. But we know that's working, which is fantastic. But now what we're going to do, we're going to set up future events just to make sure we can control when and when we cannot use that button to turn on the gravity field. So let's create two new remote events here. The first one is going to be turn on control input. And the second one, let's get these guys out of the way. The second remote event is going to be turn off control input. And then with that, we need a new toggle. So that's turning on, and then this one is turning off. And what is it that they're turning off for? It's going to be this event. So basically, we're going to have it so once the puzzle's activating, you can't spam the button or anything. It won't break anything at that point. But what we need to do here at the very end here, we want to go ahead and activate the remote event we just created for turning off control input. So let's go to new action, event, activate remote event, plug that in. And like we set up here, we're going to turn off control input. And now we have a green check mark. And there we go. So that's all set up. The one thing we have to do later is the turn on control input. But these guys are all together. This is a completed section, so let's comment this. And let's check this. How about control input? And activate puzzle. There we go. Okay. So what we got to do now is the actual activation of, the hey, you just did it right kind of thing, where once the box hits this trigger volume up here, it's going to activate, so this light's going to go from this color to a green color saying, yeah, you did it, and this light goes from a normal white color to a green color. And then from there, it'll deactivate, and you can keep doing that as many times as you like. So let's go ahead and start getting that set up. But before we can do that, we need one important actor here. Let's go into our content browser. Actor classes. We need our material instance actor, so select that in there. Right click in our scene, add the actor in. I also like to change the draw scale to about 0.5 just so it doesn't get too in the way there, and I like to put it near the actual material it's affecting. So basically what we have here, this light, if we hit F4 in its materials section, it has a specific material in it. It's one of our material instant constants for this light. In this material instance, it has this vector parameter, light color, that we get to affect in matinee through Kismet. So with that, with that specific material in our content browser highlighted, let's select our material instance actor and add it. This basically saying, hey, this material instance actor is referencing that material, and that material is only applied to this mesh, and it's not to this one. So let's go ahead, go back into Kismet, and make sure your trigger volume here is touched. There's actually something really important that we need to go over with this trigger volume, so let's hit F4. Let's go to Modify Properties. And what we need to make sure of, by default, these go to touch all but weapons. I just made sure it goes to touch all. That's all you need to do. But with the K actor itself, this also has special properties. So let's go to F4. And on the wake gun level start, that one's done by default there. We had that at the beginning. But this variable right here, the no encroach check, by default that's checked. But you want it to be false, because we want this K actor to recognize touch events from volumes or triggers. So just make sure no encroach check is set to false or unchecked. Once you have it, what we need to do now is have our trigger volume here selected in our Kismet. Let's go ahead and right click, do a new event using trigger volume 0, and let's do touch. Now there's a couple things we need to change on this one. Instead of pawn, we're actually going to search for K actor. We're going to uncheck force overlapping because that requires the player to be overlapping at the time of activation, which we don't want. And then max trigger count, we want this set to be 0. And then from there, we want to go ahead and uncheck player only, because that means only the player can activate this trigger volume, which, as we know, is not the case, not what we want to do. So next, let's go ahead and select our material instance actor. With that selected, let's hold down the M key to create a new matinee. Just move that into place. Now let's double click matinee to get the matinee window open. We'll go ahead and minimize a couple things here. Which one is our matinee? There you go. Now let's just put our matinee window right here. What we're going to go ahead and do with the material instance actor still connected, right click, add new empty group. Let's just call this mesh material underscore light color. Now we created that group. Now we need to right click on that group, and let's do add vector material param trap. Now this is very important at this point. What we need to do here, if you look under materials, it has our material instance constant, but it's asking for a param name. If we saw before, it was light color, so that's our param name. And now we need two different keyframes. The first one at 0, and then the second one at 0.5 seconds. And let's go ahead and check this box here. It'll give us our graph. At 0 seconds, what we want to do is have all these colors set to about like 10 or so, just so it's bright. And then if we look at our mesh right here, now we see it turn on. And it's pretty bright, but basically the animation as it stands right now, it goes from on to off. But we actually want it to go to green. So with the second keyframe selected, up here let's uncheck blue and red just so we have green. And let's just make the green 110. So now it's going to go from bright to green. And that's exactly what we want. So keeping the actual matinee up here, let's select our dynamic light. Right click, add new lighting group. Let's just call this light underscore light color. And then with that, it gives us a bunch of parameters like movement, brightness, light color, and radius. We're only going to mess with light color. And then with light color, we're going to make it go from white to green. But before we do that, let me uncheck this. So light color, let's create our two keyframes. Whoops, I accidentally deleted that. Here we go. Now on the first keyframe, we're going to leave everything as it stands, but on the second keyframe, that's where we're going to turn it to a different color. So the blue value, actually we're just going to set the color when we right click here. So that's all we need. So let's see if this works. Doesn't seem to be. There we go. So now we have the light changing color. So basically all we had to do in here, if you just select the keyframe, you can set color, and you can just move the color wheel, and it'll actually adjust the 3 RGB values for you. So now we have that all working. So if we look, it goes there. Perfect. So that's all we need with that. So let's go back into Kismet, and now we have our matinee here. And an actual matinee property in itself, let's select matinee. All we want to go ahead and do is just rewind on play. Just means it's ready to play again if we ever need it to, and it's also going to be able to rewind. So then from here, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create a new remote event, but let's first do activate remote event. So that name is going to be called turn off gravity. Plug that in. And this ends this part of the sequence here. So let's go ahead and highlight everything, comment it saying light and pressure. I don't know how to name this. I'll just call it light color, and since that's a pressure pad, we'll call it pressure pad. So light color and pressure pad. We have that set up, which is always a good thing. So now it's just one last section here. So basically we're going to have it so you can basically do this as many times as you want, you know, until your heart gives out there. So let's go right click, new event, remote event. This one's going to be for the turn off gravity. Let's just update it. There we go. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to get a modify property for the gravity. So just copy and paste this. And just move it down here, disconnect that, remove the delay since we don't need it, plug it in, and we're going to actually change this back to default gravity, which is -520. And then we're going to also turn off that cylindrical force actor. So let's copy and paste this, drag it all the way down, turn off, move that into place, and then we're going to actually copy and paste this matinee. And we're just going to do the reverse, so you know those lights go back to normal after the gravity is released. And then once it's reversed, we're going to go ahead and turn on the control input. So let's copy and paste this, activate remote event, change off to on. And now it should reference the other one. And we have to do it under the reverse section, because if we go under completed, it's not going to play, only because we have it going to the reverse. So basically play correlates with completed, reverse, you know, goes with reversed. And so basically basic straightforward stuff there. And that's basically it. So let's go ahead and just comment this section here. Call it shut off gravity and reverse animation. So let's move this into place as well. This is bothering me just a bit. There we go. And that's everything. So let's see if that's working. Put that into place. Activate it. Let's see if those lights turn on. So we see that it's working. The one thing that is bothering me is the delay of everything. So we'll go ahead and let's put a delay on this one. Right click on it. Let's do a second delay. So now the gravity won't get turned off as, I guess, quickly, if you will. So let's see if this is any better. Hopefully it is. And it is. Perfect. So now we see it's not working again just because the actual box is not in the field. But now we see that it is. Goes boop. And we see that everything's working, so that's awesome. Let me just quickly bake lighting. So this was my, I wouldn't say interpretation, but the main idea behind the custom gravity. just for the physics gun level that I've been working on, the ones that have been streamed. The next puzzle I'm going to set up involves basically this kind of setup, except there's multiple, and you have to do them in certain orders, certain patterns, things like that, just to make it more interesting. But this is more of a proof of concept more than anything, just to make sure it was working. So hopefully you guys can use this in your levels too. Obviously, you know, if you want to think of different ways to use this mechanic, go for it. And if you find something cool with it, you know, let me know about it. You know, you can comment on this video, or you can send me a message directly. That's fine. I'm actually curious how others would use this mechanic and what their purposes were for. So I always look forward to seeing stuff like that. So let's just wait till the lighting finishes here, just because we changed some of the lighting. And then we'll just get a final product overview. And then we're good to go for this tutorial. Luckily I have a pretty fast computer, so it's not going to take too much longer. Let's see here. We're almost halfway there. And, you know, during this time, I'd just like to say thanks for watching, guys. You know, subscribe if you haven't. Share this video if you think it's cool. If you think other people will find it useful. Comment with, you know, more information if you have questions, or if you have any cool ideas or new suggestions for videos. Definitely go for it. And also like it. You know, like the video if you actually enjoyed watching it. If you didn't like it, you know, you can always thumbs it down. But you know, we always want to keep, you know, everything positive. We want to keep everyone, you know, excited for Kismet and everything like that. So we have everything set up. Here's the final scene. And here it is in real time. And here's the back room. And let's show the Kismet one more time. So this is our initialization. This is where we get the third-person camera and the physics gun in the level. And then we toggle the HUD. And that's every time the players spawn. Next we have the turn on and then turn off control input with the actual trigger being used event. And then with the actual trigger used being the event here, we modify a couple properties. Actually, it's just the same property, but multiple times. It's the gravity Z property in the gravity volume. The first one changes to 50 to get the initial lift, and after a second, we boost that to 7,000. Just shoots up and stays up there. But we also turn on the RB cylindrical force actor. This gives it the initial kind of push up. And then after that, we turn off control input just so you can't do that multiple times. And then we have our trigger volume that's on the roof or on the ceiling. And when that's touched by our K actor, we go ahead and turn, we change the light color and we animate the material to go from the normal color to a green color. And then from there, we activate turn off gravity. There's a second delay. After about a second, we go back to our gravity that's normal, the negative 520. We turn off our force actor and we reverse those animations. And then from there, we can do it all over again. So let me demonstrate this one last time. Just like, oh no. Put that into place. And boom. So that's it. So again, I hope you learned a lot. This was always fun to make. I love making these kind of environments. I may actually just kind of copy and paste the look of this environment to the actual physics gun level because I really, really do enjoy how it looks. But I'll see you guys next time. Again, thanks for watching. Bye.